Welcome, I'm Joanna Coles, Chief Content Officer of The Daily Beast, coming to you with the Daily Beast podcast. If you're a long-time fan of the pod, welcome to our new feed. If you're a new abnormal listener, stick around. We're bringing you more of the people, the politics and the pop culture coverage you need every Tuesday, Thursday and Sunday. Enjoy today's episode. It is a wild one. Spoiler alert, they're always wild ones. And of course, joining me today is my co-host, Samantha B.
Yes, hello. How are you? Okay.
Aren't you a chief content officer
too? Well, you were
too?
supposed to ask me according to our script in front of us.
Oh,
You're
I
supposed
ignored
to say,
the script.
What
As
are
usual,
you,
I've already veered off the script. It's going to be difficult. We're off piece, and we've got a strange man sitting between us too, which is very odd. But just tell me what you are I'm chief content officer of, and then we can introduce our strange guest.
Well, Joanna, just because you asked, this week I'm the chief content officer of hand-done crotch embroidery at the Met Gala. My work is meticulous. I will do a high kick and show you later.
I want to know all about it. You are referring, I think, to Lisa's underpants with Rosa Parks stitched carefully into.
That's right.
Into the crease.
Well, once I do my high kick, you'll be pleased to know that you'll find RGB just emblazoned across my perineum. Enjoy.
RGB or RBG?
This is going great. So far, I feel really good.
Our beast of the week is the magnificent Kurt Andersen. Kurt is what the British would call a man of letters. He's a journalist, he's a novelist, he's a historian, he's a radio interviewer. He writes funny books, he writes serious books, including Fantasyland, How America Went Haywire, and Evil Geniuses. Together, these books chart what Kurt calls the history of the fuckening of America. And perhaps these days, Kurt is best known for his co-founding of Spy magazine in the mid-'80s, where he coined the term short-fingered vulgarian for our current president. Like Cassandra, Kurt and his co-founder of Spy magazine, Graydon Carter, tried to warn the people. And like the Trojans, the people did not listen. Good idea.
Andersen is with us today, and he is already so confused about why we are approved to be on air at all.
Yep.
Who said yes to this? Hi, welcome.
Welcome, Kurt Andersen.
A pleasure to be here.
Wow. It is a pleasure to talk to you in person. It's been a long time since we had an in-person conversation. 15 years.
Pre-Trump.
Pre-Trump.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
We've all learned so much.
We have.
We've all aged wonderfully.
But was there ever a pre-Trump? Because actually the one thing about Trump is he's dominated the media for the last 40 years, whatever the medium was. And Kurt, I feel like one of the reasons we were so excited to talk to you, and there are many, you coined the term short-fingered vulgarian about Trump when you were at Spy. And really, you sort of foreshadowed what was to come. So it might be your fault.
Short-fingered vulgarian was coined collectively by Graydon Carter, my co-founder, and I, and God knows who else in our staff at the time. And he was the first person, having done a profile of Donald Trump before any of us ever knew who Trump was in 1983. We were just starting to talk about Spy. As he said, he has cufflinks the size of $50, which is he used as a signifier of being from Queens, basically. But he said he had small hands. And so when we began inventing an epithet for him, as we did for frequent recurring people in Spy, like maybe my favorite, even though it doesn't have the legacy of short-fingered vulgarian, was our one for Henry Kissinger, whom we always called, every time we referred to him in the magazine, socialite war criminal Henry Kissinger.
That's great.
And I just love that.
Perfect.
Anyway, so,
the juxtaposition of it.
Exactly.
Yeah,
And they were
socialite
always
war
these,
criminal.
Like, whatever they were, 5-6 syllable, like Homeric epithets. And so Trump, we called for a while Queens-born casino operator, thinking he'll hate that. But then we came up finally with short-fingered vulgarian, and it stuck, and you know.
And the rest is history.
Became the 10th line of my obituary. So we did invent this, and it stuck, and it outlasted the magazine and everything else. But moreover, one reason we invented this epithet, this phrase, is because he was a great recurring figure. If you're starting a satirical magazine in New York City in 1986, like, oh my God, he was in the first issue. The cover story of the first issue was Jerks, the 10 most embarrassing New Yorkers.
And he was
there. And again, I go back and look at how we quoted him and what we said about him, and it's just, he is the same creature.
Yes, I mean, well, he does want to bring back Alcatraz, like we are talking, and he has not emotionally aged since the 1980s. So this is it's very on brand for us to be talking about him circa 1980.
He is an artifact of that time.
I would say that growing up in Canada, as I did growing up in Toronto, I religiously read Spy magazine, and I think that my opinion of Donald Trump was formed through your vision of him. If that makes any sense, because I've always known, like, why would a teenager in Toronto know anything about a Donald Trump? I mean, the fact is,
and not just about Canadians, about other people.
Yes.
I grew up in Nebraska, the Canada of America, effectively. And many people, especially your age, slightly younger than we are, say, like, it's just exactly that kind of thing.
Right.
Well, that's how I know about Mike Ovitz. That's how I know about Donald Trump. That's how I know about, Elaine's, whatever it is.
Well, yes, it was very big. It taught me a lot about New York society, New York culture that I really had no right to know about.
Yeah.
Spy magazine and gourmet magazine were my two touch points.
And it talks about them in a non-reverent way, which was the first time, because otherwise these people have been sort of, people were worshipful of them, and you sort of pulled the curtain back. And I remember reading the first copy of Spy when I was working at the Daily Telegraph in London, and I actually wrote a piece about it. And I can remember my first line, which was Britain is coming under attack from across the Atlantic again. And there was a piece in it about why you shouldn't have British people to stay, because they would arrive and they'd say, oh, I've forgotten my toothbrush. And then you as a host would say, well, there's a CVS on the corner. And they go, no, I'm only here for 2 weeks. It's fine. Which was such a good description of British people.
Yeah. Well, as having a Canadian co-founder who was half, an Anglophilic Canadian co-founder.
Right.
We were attuned to Britishness. And I remember... yes, that piece had the word freeloaders in the...
Yeah, totally. It was such a good piece, and it was caused enormous Sturm and Drang in London, I remember at the time. And of course, you can read all about this in Graydon Carter's memoir, which came out about a month ago. I'm halfway through and really enjoying, and the stuff about Spy is great. But when you look at Donald Trump now, is it an inevitability of what happened? Is it the mashup of celebrity culture, or what is it that sort of got him there that you somehow managed to skewer back in the 80s?
Well, in addition to investigating his imminent bankruptcy and as you say, reporting on him, not like, wow, look at him, he's great, he's wonderful, look, he's built these buildings. We did what journalists we thought were supposed to do, which is to be adversarial and look at and talk about him and people like him in general in the way that the young journalists we were and hung out with would at the bar. Like say these things like why can't that go in the paper? Why can't that go in the no. And just sit, fact check it and make it rigorous and do journalism in a funny pseudo British way about these bad guys like Donald Trump. And he was all the things he is now: a bully, a braggart, a liar,
show off,
all that, and that was something new in America, and that was something new about him. It was also a moment when tabloid journalism, certainly in at large in America, but specifically in New York with the Daily News and New York Post, was a thing for the first time in the 70s and 80s. So that was new, and that was a perfect timing for him to be able to call up the New York Post and Daily News and said, hey, do this. My wife said it was the best, or my girlfriend, best sex she's ever had, or whatever he wanted to do to get in the papers. And
because of course he used to ring up with stories about himself.
Yes. Well, but he did that and pretended to be somebody else. But he didn't. He just talked to people as Donald Trump to get to play stories. He would call Page 6, the gossip column, for all the time. And so his accessibility helped, his shamelessness, I'll do anything. And the fact that, like P.T. Barnum, his great predecessor, he who coined the phrase, well, the greatest show on earth, and there's no such thing as bad publicity.
Right.
Donald Trump, the key to Donald Trump, and he understood that from the get-go. And as politics was becoming more and more a kind of subset of show business in the end of the 20th century, he got that, and then his moment came, and here he was.
Well, I feel like there are much learnings for us from Spy at the Beast. One of the things I loved in Graydon's book was the description of him and you sitting down together and coming up with ideas which you knew would make the other one laugh. And I feel like there's a lot of that at the Daily Beast, that we go around and we come up with a headline and shout it to someone, and if they laugh, you know that that's what's going to work. I wanted to talk about Mark Carney, actually, your friend.
My friend.
Well, your fellow Canadian.
Close friend. Oh, God, we're so close. God, we're so tight.
Well, he did have rather a good visit, I thought, this week with Trump.
Yes, I felt that in the conversation that they had, the televised conversation that they had, he was very firm. He came to do the job, and he did the job very well. I think he executed on the mission quite well. He was firm. He was confident. He sat up straight. He looked professional, and that's really more than you can ask for these days.
Completely, and coherent.
And he got the headlines.
And didn't suck up. I mean, when you meet with Macron and stuff, you always see Macron like...
They love to shake hands and touch each other.
Yes. Whereas this guy was just, nope, I'm not going to do that. And you say never. But Mr. President, Canadians are never going to allow you to do this.
Yes.
Like, perfect. And interestingly, he won in Trump's terms, because Trump was still like, nice. No, Canada and America love each other. We love each other. There was no of the performative aggression and confrontation that, he has done in that chair before. So it was, Canada.
Yes.
Well, do you think that Donald Trump is slightly intimidated by Mark Carney? Because Mark Carney obviously was the governor of the Bank of England. He was at Goldman Sachs, which we know Donald Trump hates, because he feels like the Goldman guys were the people that kept him away. And you could sort of see it playing out that he was doing his big, shiny, show-offy self, but Mark Carney actually held the cards.
And I think because he speaks just like an American, Trump doesn't have that kind of xenophobic, you're just a foreigner, fuck you. And why he married two of his three wives. I think my theory is that has always been like, you don't speak English well, Ivana and Melania. So this guy, central banker, Goldman, fit, just an American. I can't. How am I supposed to?
Yeah. How do I penetrate? This level of professionalism?
Yes.
Like, this person is this person clearly knows more than I do.
Which he hates. That.
Hates it.
And he said, actually, a few weeks ago, he said he's a stiff. Well, that's fair enough.
Sure.
I mean, but like, he was. It was really interesting to see not only Carney perform well, but Trump seem a little back-footed.
Yeah, I thought he seemed slightly cowed or subdued with him, and he couldn't quite get purchase. It didn't spiral. And then Carney did get the headlines, which was we will never surrender, or whatever it was. We'll never sell.
There were no moments that I saw anyway of the sycophancy that every other one.
Yes, he was complimentary, but in a measured. It was just all very measured, and he really is. If he's a stiff, that's great. He's the stiff that the world craves.
No, it's like caricature of
stability,
the American, caricature of the perfectly competent
normal
Canadian.
Yes.
Yeah, normie.
Yes.
Yeah, which is
and
sort
it could
of
have
what we
gone
want.
in such a different direction. But really, the entire country. It's actually pretty remarkable that the country stood up and rejected chaos or rejected the unknown in a really concrete way.
And so quick. I mean, the fact that the polls there changed so dramatically, so quickly.
Yes,
and elected him.
Yes.
We'll probably discover at a later date that he too has underpants with Rosa Parks embroidered on them.
Well, I certainly hope so, because that is just a beautiful tribute to
I would like to.
I have Martin Luther King underwear on.
You do?
Yes,
Oh my gosh! Well,
you have a dream. So, Kurt, if Spy was still around, what would it make of the Met Gala now?
The thing is, I mean, one of the beauties and lucky timings of Spy is that it was a monthly magazine when you'd still have impact in these moments before there was an internet monthly magazine.
Right.
And so we would be able to do it, and we would do it pictorially and describe it, since there was no daily coverage of things like that back in the day. And that's the other thing, by the way, that didn't exist when Trump was beginning, when Spy was beginning, or barely existed. The celebrity media thing, from People magazine to InStyle to all of it, had just started. And so that was a perfect thing for him too. Anyway, what would we have done? We would have run pictures, and instead of saying, look who she's with, oh, look at this thing, we would have described them for what they are, and for instance, the 16-year-old Samantha Bee could have written about the Rosa Parks panties for us.
Right.
No, I don't know what we would have done, but it would have been just, it was harder there were plenty of over the top, ostentatious, ridiculous, all the things that the Met Gala is one version of happening then, but it wasn't so like, the seeds of that were starting right in the 80s in New York when we were coming back and we were no longer bankrupt and like, oh, let's show our money off. And again, part of Donald Trump's success at the time, like, yeah, I could be a rich guy. Being a rich guy is okay. And the Met Gala is just an extreme kind of, right before the French Revolution version of ostentatious, let them eat cake. Well, let them eat cake, but let's pretend let's put Rosa Parks' name on our underwear to show that we really do care about people.
We really do care. Yeah, I don't know. For me, I just kind of feel like it. You know what? And I love the Costume Institute. I really do. I think they do incredible work. And I actually love the theme this year. I think it's great. It's just not an event that has any meaning to me. And I wonder if we are just past it. I feel that as a nation, we are past it.
But did you see, I noticed Pamela Andersen. I didn't spend a lot of time observing the coverage of the Met Gala, but the fact that Pamela Andersen came, looking beautiful in her new no makeup way.
Yeah.
And in this normal, beautiful Tory Burch, see, I did my research.
You do,
gown.
you did,
yes.
And like, as opposed to the, Halloween party costuming that everybody else has. Oh, look at her. Oh, look at him. And it was just, she could have been at the Oscars. She could have been at any gala. And not that everybody should be boring looking, but like it was a nice respite. And given a woman who became famous being fakey, the ultimate fakey,
Sure. Yes.
Well, she juggle lady,
she
it
had
was
a sort of
fantastic and ironic and perfect.
Yeah, she had a sort of elegance to her, I thought. It's the show-offery I find uncomfortable. And also, I wrote a piece saying it's time to send it to the consignment store of history. But the thing I was struck by was that exactly 2 years previous, so 2023, Diddy, Sean Puffy Combs, was debuting his so-called couture collection, which was received with breathless praise by Vogue, saying that he had sort of flowers along the seam, and it was said it was like looking at camellias bursting through a crack in the pavement, which it really wasn't, but whatever. And of course, now he's limited clothing choices as he's on trial for hideous crimes, racketeering, sex trafficking. And I'm told by people who've seen the evidence that it's unlikely he will ever see the light of day. Of course, you never know now. He might go down and then get pardoned by Donald Trump. But the sort of egregious lineup of people who got air cover by celebrities at the Met Gala. You think of Harvey Weinstein, you think of Ghislaine Maxwell, you think of Kanye sort of spiraling into madness and now selling T-shirts with swastikas on them. And you think, actually, this is what this gala has produced. I mean, yes, money for the Costume Institute, but also this grotesque lineup of celebrities who are the alongside Trump, these sort of strange characters of celebrity that mean nothing.
Right. And again, Anna Wintour being very, very strategic and smart in so many ways, having, the great Nigerian novelist Adichie as part of her host committee. I mean, the way she plays both sides and is very shrewd. But the thing about the Met Gala, and as you say, the Diddys and Harveys of the world, then, you could have a whole lineup of former Met Gala guests and where are they? What prison are they in now?
Right. But what costume are they wearing now?
Partly because New York and New York fashion and stylishness ever since I've been here almost 50 years ago, has had this like, oh, it's Weimar time. It's right before the fall. It's dark. It's dirty. It's weird. It's great. It's stylish, and that kind of celebration of decadence, uptown and downtown, has always been part of the thing, and it has its moments. And the Met Gala is like this scaling up, virtually mass marketing of that, like, aren't we naughty? And aren't we rich kind of thing, you know?
Yeah, it's true. And Anna Wintour's the great survivor. I mean, she really is. She's been there a long time. She's, 75 now? And she's really, she's really
make one
hung
observation.
on.
It looks like the least fun event that a human being could attend.
Weren't you asked to be a co-chair one
Well,
year?
no, I was not asked to be a co-chair. I think that the way that it works, I think that the way that you get invited is that your interest gets floated. It's sort of like, well, because it's such a huge commitment. It's just a huge money commitment and time commitment and fashion commitment to construct an outfit, to work with a designer, it's like a whole production. And so they float it to you, whether you would be interested or not. And it just was just a hard no from me, because I hate parties, like on a very basic level, very shy. You'll find me in the bathroom flipping over the toilet paper rolls so that the toilet paper hangs correctly. Like, I cannot.
You're the person that does that.
Oh, of course. Every time, even in a restaurant, it's actually weird. But so I can't get with it. I said no. My daughters are very mad at me for admitting that to them, but I just couldn't do it. I think when we were talking about this episode, I did say the words, I think I would rather go to war than go to the Met Gala. And I don't think that is not true.
If they shot at you at the Met Gala,
Perhaps.
Because at least you'd be dying for a cause.
But I would be willing to fall backwards out of a military helicopter into a frozen ocean rather than put on one of those outfits and stand there sucking in my gut for the full.
I have done that. I have done. I went one year to support
oh my
Oprah.
God. What did you
when I was at Hearst and I was editing? I think either Marie Claire or Cosmo.
And
I
allowed
remember
us to come.
They allowed us to come, Rival Magazine Company, because Oprah, who was doing her magazine with Hearst magazines. So it was the 3-line whip to go. And all I remember is it was this sort of insane walking up the steps. And at the top of the steps was Anna Wintour, and you had to sort of, squeeze her hand. It was very strange. But what I actually remember...
Did you say Your Majesty as you did that?
Oh, of course. I curtsied. I did the full thing. But I do remember going to the loo, and the loo was full of models who'd done the red carpet, fulfilled their obligations to the advertisers who'd taken them, and were just like, how do we get out of here? How can we leave? We don't want to stay anymore. We want to go and smoke and drink outside at the Mark Hotel. But the thing that was so interesting about it was really just all for show. It was all about the red carpet. Then you climb the stairs, then you go in the room, and it was Tony Bennett and Lady Gaga, who sang 5 songs, and then it was sort of done. And I think I was home by like 10:15. Anyway,
by the way, just as you're describing the Met Gala and you've been there, I think of other big, famous, fancy parties. The one that I've been to a few times was Graydon, my co-founder Graydon Carter's Oscar party in LA, which was. Yes, it was a version of that, and there was a red carpet and movie stars. It was super fun, though.
Right.
It wasn't about it. You went there and and for the first while, a long time into it, they passed out cigarettes,
Right.
and people drank and people talked, and it was fantastic. It was really a fun party, as well as being this gala, iconic publicity hogging event. Just saying, you didn't have to be the kind of weird. Kind of alternate universe nightmare of the ancien regime that the Met Gala is.
Okay, so Kurt, you've just finished writing your next book. What's it about? And then I want us to talk about the fucking of America, your great phrase.
Well, let me answer your questions in reverse because they're connected.
A book called Fantasy Land, History of How America Went Haywire, 500-year history. 8 years ago, just as Trump was becoming president, it came out. It wasn't going to be about him. It was a weird little history book, and he walked in and became its kind of last-minute poster boy. So I wrote that, and then coming off of that and finishing it, I said, well, but what's the other part of this story? And my friend said, "You mean of the fucking of America?" I said, "Yes, exactly." Which was to say the last 50 years, and how I published this book called Evil Geniuses about how the right and the rich and the certain kinds of zealots got together really 50 years ago and sort of plotting their hijacking of our political economy in the United States. And did so very successfully, of whom electing Ronald Reagan president was only one piece. Anyway, so I thought about doing a third. They did well. Oh, okay. But I realized I don't have, this is it. This is what I got to say. This is my unified theory of the fucking of America. And I'd been working on a novel. I published 4 novels before doing these 2 nonfiction books, and I had been working on a novel set in the future. I said, oh, I can do this and say whatever I have to say about the future. It's a novel set 20 years in the future, and it's called The Breakup. And that means it has many meanings in this future world I build, and so it's and again, like those 2 history books, which people thought, oh, this is kind of funny for a depressing history of America. And again, it's not a dystopian novel, but it is set in the future where, more bad things happen between now and then. But there's, I like to think there's a happy-ish ending to
Well, that would be nice.
the characters, to America, to.
And also, I'm thinking about the breakup of reality, the breakup of America, the breakup of all of it.
Indeed. So, I hope that. Well, I just turned it in, so maybe it'll come out a year. That's
great. Well, who knows if we'll still be here in a year.
Oh, sure we will. Or else we'll just share bunks in the gulag.
Well, that's also a possibility.
Yes, it will be
Well, I
co-ed.
hope it's co-ed. Otherwise, it would be very boring. I'm looking forward to going to Mars, though. I'm putting my hand up for that trip.
Oh, wow.
I think it might be just cleaner up there.
You be the first.
Okay, I'll
Let me know how it goes.
All right, Kurt Andersen, thank you very much for joining us.
So much.
Super fun.
Such a pleasure.
Oh, I love hearing from Kurt Andersen.
I do too. I miss hearing his voice. On
Studio 360.
Yeah, I really, really loved that show. So it was really nice to sit in person.
Yeah, and he did it for 20 years.
Very soothing.
And he
The sound
interviewed
of
you
his-
on it. He interviewed you for your memoir.
He did. Yes, he did. And you need to read my memoir.
I
because you will
do.
learn
I need to
so
read your
much.
memoir.
Oh, boy.
I
have
need to read your memoir.
several copies.
Do I need to read it aloud?
Yes, actually. That would be helpful.
I might read it on the corner of Broadway and Houston. I'll ring a bell and I'll go, hear ye, and I'll do selected readings.
Well, you'll have to push me out of the way because that's where I read my memoir out loud.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, I'm looking forward to it. Anyway, if you have been, thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this podcast, please like, subscribe, comment, and share it with the stranger on the subway, the person in the traffic jam next to you, your person in your coffee shop.
100%. And don't forget to send all those emails to beastpod@thedailybeast.com if you want to hear directly from Joanna. Leave
Yep.
us a comment on YouTube. We're so curious.
I'm back at it on
about
YouTube.
what
I'm
you
back
think
at
of our
it.
outfits.
And do you know what? They're very, very complimentary about you. I really like Sam B.
Oh, well, that's nice. Thank you, everyone.
Perked up now.
More of this, please.
If you're not a subscriber to The Daily Beast, why not? It's so easy to sign up. You just go to thedailybeast.com.
And as always, never, never, never forget as you go out in the world, always, always be best.
Sam, when will you remember? It's Be Beast.
I will never learn this. I refuse. Je le refuse.
Go straight to the Met Ball and do not collect 200 as you pass go.
Just drop me in a frozen ocean.